Tuesday night, bit of a fight night tonight. None other than the wonderful James Ashby from One Nation, Labor to a boot, Strathfield, a free citizen as well as none other than Linda Scott. Lovely to see you both. Before we get to the big issues of state, can I deal with a great idea from local council? Sometimes we always end up in the, diverting off into local council chat. But how good is the people in and around Strathfield Council in Sydney, because they are openly suggesting that they say no more real estate signs on public land. You know, often when those things will be put up saying, open for inspection this way or that way, I also think some councils maybe should turn around and say, how long a sign? As soon as a house is sold, by the way, out comes a sign. I have no idea why they're allowed to keep it for as long as they do, and these things get bigger and bigger and bigger. I know my Uncle Phil, who's a real estate agent, will be screaming at the telly right now, I love you, brother. But, James, what a great idea. OK, if you've got to sell it, fine, fair enough, but let's all know very few people are just driving around and they go, oh, there's a house for sale, I might buy it. No, it's just a way of telling you, here it is, the one that's on the internet.
Mate, we don't have that problem here in central Queensland. We get one sign out the front, and every now and then you might see one on the corner saying open for inspection today from 11 to 12, for example. But, mate, if this council wanted to do anything, how about you deal with the fees that real estate charge? Don't worry about the signs, it's the fees, mate. They're extraordinary.
Good man. And yet another reason to move to Queensland. Very few for sale signs because nobody wants to leave that magical joint. Linda, again, these are the types of little things you can't change the world, even though many councillors want to declare war on this and an emergency on that, but every now and then I just want it to be about, can we get rid of the visual pollution?
It's the most Sydney story ever, right?
I love
it. The most Sydney story ever. Like, Sydney real estate, property markets, you're going to get a headline, and then signs and visual clutter also. It's just the perfect ingredient for a story. A number of Western Sydney councils are doing this, so Strathfield Council is not the only one. And I do think it is good to see, because I was walking down to Sydney Street the other day in the inner city, and it literally had this massive sign up the front of the house that said, this house will soon be on sale. So, James Ashby, you couldn't even go in and inspect it. It was like, it's going to be in a few weeks on sale. Like,
I couldn't afford a house in Sydney.
Correct.
That suburb, there's $4 million medium price. Who can afford that? $4 million?
Mate, the view you've got and the proximity
to get out there. And the housing affordability.
Oh, stop it.
Do
I love
so
you, but stop it. Anyway, I think James wins because he doesn't live too far from a joint we can rip around on jet skis. So well played, sir.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Victoria. And as you know, the Allen government's deciding to go along with its own version of the voice. Well, the opposition, the Liberals have come out and said, bugger what they do, we're getting rid of it if we win the upcoming election. Here is the Liberal opposition leader in Victoria.
The Allen Labor government have proven yet again they've got their priorities wrong. We're actually starting to focus on some of the biggest issues here in our state facing all Victorians when it comes to crime, when it comes to the health crisis. People are literally dying waiting for ambulances. And yet this government continues to push down a road that most Victorians have already voted against.
Middle stump. Linda, what do you think about this? The people made it very clear about a federal one. Presumably their feelings would be the same about a state one. The Libs are now saying, here's a line in the sand. If you want to do it, fine. We'll close it down.
Look, I think the opposition leader in Victoria has got to be a bit careful. Labor won a very decisive election in South Australia, right next door, based on hospital ambulance ramping against the Liberal government. So I'm not sure they've got a great track record on ambulance or health generally.
The Victorian opposition is in charge of the South Australian government?
Progressive states in the country, like in Victoria, it's a pretty difficult ask to make. If they want to kind of swing far right Trumpian on the culture wars again, I just think it's not the smartest strategy. But, far be it for me to give the Victorian opposition leader any advice. But if they want to go Trumpian right, I'm not sure.
Trumpian right? Why? James, why is any opposition to everything they want to do Trumpian right?
Well, again, this is just the arrogance of Labor. They don't listen to people. They've clearly cast their vote during the referendum, which I might just add, almost 2 years ago we took that. It was 23, wasn't it? October 23.
Yep.
It's hard to believe that this is a state that just completely ignores the wishes of the people of Victoria. But, there's a big but here, because at the same time too, the Liberal Party couldn't pick a side at that time. John Pursuto was the leader, obviously, but the thing was, they took a conscience vote. The Liberals in South Australia voted in favour of a voice. They were at odds with their federal counterparts. But look, it's nice to see the new opposition leader taking a strong stance, so he should. This is not what Victorians, let alone the rest of the country, want. It's so divisive. And again, this comes at an added cost to all Victorians to implement a voice to Parliament.
Now, we're going to be on a unity ticket here, and I think peace is about to break out in the next couple of minutes because the Labor Party is adopting one nation's policy when it comes to a gas reserve. This, in part, was being announced in the past couple of days that the Federal Energy Minister, Chris Bowen, says that gas projects cannot export anything that they produce, needing to offer at least something to the local market. Again, I remember, James, this being what your boss was saying for years.
Well, we've always advocated for a domestic gas reservation policy. WA's got it with the benefit of the North West Shelf, and we have been looking at a domestic gas policy for the East Coast as well. But the biggest problem is it's very uncertain what Chris Bowen's going to do here. I don't think personally it should be made retrospective because there are projects that have obviously opened here on the East Coast that obviously rely on some export as part of their agreements. It's one way in which they got their funding. But any future projects, yes, of course, should have that. But the issue that we've got to see here with the domestic gas reservation policy is this. You've got to get government out of the way. If you want new gas fields to open up, you've got to get this federal government out of the way. Obviously, there's going to be environmental needs which need to be met. We get that. But at the end of the day, if you want new investment in gas, governments need to disappear. Because it's over $1 million to put in one single gas well. And we know that they don't last forever. They've got a couple of years' life left in them. So if you want investment in gas, that's one thing. But get out of the way, government, and allow these gas companies to be able to get in there and do it. And as for these states that don't want gas, well, as far as I'm concerned, turn the tap off them. If Queensland's the only state on the East Coast going to be producing gas, forget it, Victoria and New South Wales. Open yours as well.
I'm with you. Nigel Farage standing by. Linda Scott, let me finish with you here, which is you've got an idea to supercharge the Australian economy.
Look, I love to hear James arguing against his own policy, which is partly what he did there. But I think it's incumbent on Labor to look at every lever to supercharge productivity, right? Looking at our energy markets in the current global context, looking at a range of ideas. But here's what I want to pitch to the Treasurer and the government, and I hope people get behind it. We've got to invest more in innovation. We've got to make sure that Australian companies are inventing things here and manufacturing things here. I found this great research report recently from the University of Sydney that showed that if aged care in Australia, aged care businesses spent as much on research and development as Australian beekeeping, go the beekeepers, there would be an extra 150 million invested each year in R&D. We've got so many clever people here, so many great ideas. Let's get our businesses to invest in research and development and innovation and turbocharge productivity.
Other people want to follow the money. Let's say follow the honey.
Love it, love it.
Linda, thank you, James. More in a sec here with the great Nigel Farage. I can't wait to hear what he has to say about the rubbish the BBC put to air. More importantly, what was being said on stage at Glastonbury. More in a sec.